Cool, guys. So another really high percentage thing you could do when you're standing is you can kind of switch positions from a square stance, which is a wrestling stance, right, to a square stance, or what they call a stalking stance. So the real difference is one requires movement and the other doesn't. Staggered stance doesn't require you move a whole lot. I could change levels. I'm in a defensive posture. It's like half defensive, half offensive. Stalking is pretty much pure offensive. So whenever I'm ready to switch to a stalking stance, I square my feet up and I'm gonna move forward, right? Trying to get my head under Julian's head and on his chest, right? What I want is a thumb down wrist grip, right? So I can bring my elbow inside of his elbow and get this underhook position. Our whole goal is to win an underhook. So there's lots of ways we could do it. Sometimes when the person is really tall and they're not super worried about me getting close to them, I can match their height and just make sure my hands stay inside. So my four fingers made it to the inside. Now I want my elbow to make it to the inside. Once my elbow's in, my whole arm can come in. What we want to avoid doing after we get in is grabbing the back like this, because this guy can just crank on my arm a lot of different ways. Depending on where he grabs me and where he cranks it, it's not good. So we want the unwizardable grip. So what that looks like is it uses both my hands and my hips. So I want to get an underhook on his arm and I want to grab the ball of his shoulder and lift my elbow up. I want to pull him down and I'm going to get a grip on his head. The head grip pulls him down and keeps him away. And as I do this, I circle. This is the position we want to work on because this is a position he can't really wizard. Super strong people can, but the more they're focused on that, as he pulls his arm down, he's actually pulling himself closer to me and I could get to a front headlock where we want to convert it to a 4-point posture. One more time. We're staggered, right? I switch to stalking and I'm moving in. Boom. Once I'm in, look, I could try to just push my hand in, but if I need to grab my wrist, I'll grab my wrist, make a little space, punch my underhook. Want to make that underhook? The super underhook. I don't want my elbow low. I want my elbow about as high as my wrist, and I want his head lower than my wrist. Here. I'm pushing the guy away just as much as I'm here. He could try to yank his arm back, try to get away, but all of that just makes it easier for me to grab his head in a front headlock. And then I want to start pulling and hopping back and getting heavy and sprawling because I want to get Julian to go to the ground. This is where we want. Just like when we have somebody's back clinch, we're not happy until his elbows and knees are on the ground. I don't want somebody in a 4-point quad pod, toes and hands. I want to keep pulling down. We're going to talk about what to do when it just ain't happening, but that's the position we want, right? So, one more time. I'm here. I'm having no luck. He's not reaching for me, but he's also like maybe moving so much that I can't really get a static grip. Switch to square, come in. Boom. I might just punch an underhook. There's lots of ways to get the underhook. This is just one very simple way. You can get creative with it. Boom, elbow high. As soon as you get this hand in, you should be posting. Boom, and pulling and snapping. Boom, boom, boom. Bang. You could keep the grip on his arm and the head, or you could switch to double over, like seatbelt style. It's a personal preference thing. They both are really good ways to control the guy. So let's practice this entry, and then we're gonna talk about how to improve that position. Cool, so we got the guy down. Boom, he's gonna be in a quad pod, right? Boom, boom, and I had my grips. Maybe I have an overhook at this point. I'm gonna still back up and I'm gonna flare the guy's elbow and circle. And as I circle, he's gonna go to his hands and his knees. We're gonna see that circling is a big thing, you know, in this curriculum. So watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do something we call going bowling. This guy's on his hands and his knees, and what's gonna happen is gonna be very aware of which direction I go because he doesn't want me to take his back, right? He wants to make sure my feet stay on this side of his body so my feet can't become hooks and go in. That's what they're most scared of. But also what this person's gonna be trying to do is kind of take advantage of this, because if I have Julian's head like this, he can grab my tricep and peek his head out this way and then sit directly under me. And now he's got options. He could roll towards my head, he could roll towards my hips, he could look for a darce, he could do a bunch of stuff there. So the very first thing we're gonna talk about is how to control this person. And it's very simple. I'm gonna make sure my elbow lines up with the middle of my ribs. As pretty much as close in as I could do it, I want my hand. So now when I'm here, I keep his head on my belly button. So even if he grabbed my tricep, as he'd go to sit, I could even follow him a little bit. He's gonna crunch his neck too much, and it's not gonna feel good for him. So the very first part of controlling this position is making sure this person can't peek out. They call it a sit out. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go bowling. So whatever arm is controlling this guy, and once I'm sure that he's not gonna do the sit out, I'm gonna do a very simple thing. I'm gonna take my knee, the knee of the same arm that's grabbing his head. So like you have one hand that's grabbing the head and one hand that's grabbing the armpit. Watch what I'm gonna do. It's awesome. So we're really playing on the fact that he's on his knees and that he's spinnable. So as I get my grip and I'm making sure he's not sitting out, I do a little stutter step. I might be here, I bring my knee a little bit past his head if I can. Everyone's gonna have a different range of motion, but I'm gonna get really tall and I'm gonna kind of like in lesson class 2 where we kind of pigeon-toed our foot for the takedown to where it squares us up when we do our body fold. It's gonna make me line up with the person whenever I move my leg out of the way. So as I move my leg out of the way and I come here, it's gonna give me this power I need to generate, boom, this bowling motion and come to the back. Once we make it to the back, it's the same rules. We don't always wanna jump on a seatbelt grip. We don't always want to jump on this kind of grip because if Julian would take his hand and find my hip pocket, he's escaped, right? So we generally want to get double unders. If I grab his gi, that's good. It's always really good to get a 4-finger grip. And Julian might panic here and try to do a Granby or a front roll. By the way, let it go. Don't get rolled, stay on top. So that's the only thing you really need to know about that position. If you're wearing the gi, they might try to grab your uniform. That presents a little bit of a different problem, but it's not that big of a deal. Going bowling, it works.